Hey, slow delay. Having trouble with my connectivity today. If you want to supersize and grow your business, I'm going to suggest today that you move out of your glass house, especially if you want to throw stones at your enemies or help your ideal clients throw stones at their enemies. What does this mean? What am I talking about? The expression, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, has actually been around since the 1300s. I was really surprised at that. I thought it was a much more modern, newer saying, maybe with more modern architecture and windows and things. I thought it was beef from, at least when we started using windows and glass in windows in building, but it's way older than that. It's from the time when Geoffrey Chaucer used it in his writings. And it means, of course, don't throw stones at people. Do not criticize people for the same faults that you have. Now, here's the rub. The vast majority of the time when we judge or criticize anyone for anything, it's because we fear, we might not actually have that, but we fear that we are the same way. If I criticize someone for being overweight, it's because I fear, even in my mind, not out loud, I wouldn't do it out loud ever, but in my mind, or if I'm looking at and I'm noticing people that are overweight, it's because I'm judging that I myself am out of shape, overweight, or I've fallen off my good habits of taking care of myself, right? Taking care of my health. If I am noticing that someone's always late, or judging or criticizing them for being tardy or late or missing deadlines, I want to take a step back, look in the mirror and say, am I being late? Am I missing deadlines? Is there something that I should be doing that I'm not getting done in a timely manner in my own mind that I think I should be getting done faster? So I actually love this expression, especially now that I know how old it is. I think that I like it even more. A while back, I had a sudden cardiac arrest. And after that, prior to that, I was like everybody else. I judged, I did things, I went through my life, I ran through my life, not really paying much attention to things. But after that event, I noticed, and it was like a light bulb went off. I noticed that I could not tolerate judgy behavior. I immediately stopped judging other people. I didn't stop judging myself, unfortunately, but I did stop judging other people for anything. It was kind of like a light bulb went off, and it's like, you be you, I be me. We all get to be who we want to be, and I'm not going to judge you. And guess what? I don't expect you to judge me either. Now, it's not very realistic, right? Because people judge everything and anything all the time. We do. That's how we discern things. It's how we know if things are for us or not for us. If we like it, it's for us. If we don't like it, it's not for us. Well, what does that have to do with building your business and not living in a glass house? Well, couple of things that I can think of right off the top of my head. Number one, do not throw rocks at your competition and judge other people in your industry for things that you're doing yourself. Every industry has industry practices, industry norms, and just the way they do things. Some of the ones that drive us lay people the most nuts are in the financial industry, are in the, think of your cell phone, think of things like that. Think of any, how about commodities, the electric bill, the things like that, the telephone bill, those things that every business in that industry follows the same guidelines and rules. Now, used to be called monopolies, but they don't call it that anymore. They just still do it, and they seem to get away with it. Every once in a while, the government will step in and try to bust things up. For the most part, in different industries, there's industry practices. Now, if you're following an industry practice like everybody else, you can't throw stones at it. You can't make fun of it. Say everybody has a 30-day billing cycle or something. Think of affiliate marketing. That's one where everybody pays out in 45 days. After you've earned something, they pay out in 45 days. Everybody does that. If you do that too, you can't throw stones at that and make fun of it in your marketing or in your messages to people, because you're doing the same thing. If marketing, I'm going to pick on marketing today because it's easy to think of examples of it. If you are a guru or a coach and you are coaching people and you hate because you see people doing fake ads and just sharing stories that make them look good, like renting Lamborghinis and acting like the Lamborghinis are their own, and then you criticize that, but you turn around in the next week, you rent a mansion to do your next video series in. That's like perfect example of living in a glass house and throwing stones. You aren't being any more authentic than the person that you're throwing stones at. So if you're going to throw stones at people for not being authentic, you better make darn sure that you're being authentic. Marketers are notorious for just sharing bits and pieces and manipulating stories to make themselves look good, just showing gross income. For example, I work with an organization that has an award for making a certain amount of money. Well, all you have to do is have gross receipts of that amount of money. You don't have to actually make any profit. So you can't throw stones at people for just making that gross amount of money and then get mad because it's not about profit. It was never about profit. It was always about just the hitting the one number kind of thing. So that might be a bad reference. So judgment. I personally hate judgment and judging other people, mainly because I know I do way too much self-judgment. But again, with respect to our businesses, how do we grow that? How can we use this knowledge that people are judging all the time to help us grow our business? Well, knowing that people are judging themselves and things all the time, how can we help to serve our customers? How can we fill that gap in our industry? Since every industry has norms, how can we fill the gaps that are in our industry to serve our customers better? Because there's always the gaps. Usually the gaps fall in the area of attention, direct contact, done for you, actually really solving people's problems versus giving them just a band-aid, really boiling down to what is their problem and how can we actually solve it and serve them better. Anybody that serves their customers, their ideal customers, better than anyone else will win, and they don't need to throw stones. They definitely aren't living in a glass house. Whenever you're filling that gap, whenever you're filling real needs and real wants for your ideal customers, that's filling the gap. That is giving them exactly what they want and need to solve their problems. And when you're doing that, most people in any industry are not doing that. They're just, giving the quick fixes. They're giving the hacks. They're giving and selling. And if they're not giving, they're selling the hacks to people. They're selling the same thing that everybody else is selling. If you are doing the same thing as everyone else in your industry, you certainly can't throw the stone of, hey, everybody in our industry is doing this, because you're doing it too, right? It's kind of like being the ultimate hypocrite. So don't copy your competitors, because that is a prime example of living in a glass house. If you're copying your competitors, you're not creating any new solutions and solving people's problems in your own way. And maybe it's just something you borrow from another industry that you bring to your industry to bring to your customers, and it's new to them. But if you're just judging other people and criticizing them for what they're doing and not doing anything different yourself, you're going to get into trouble. Because in this day and age of the internet, everything is discoverable. Everything is find outable. That's why marketers that say, oh, I'm so authentic, or influencers that with social media go online and they're like, oh, I'm so authentic, this is the real me. And then you find out that, that everything that they've said online is a lie. It's very easy to find those things out nowadays. It didn't used to be, 40, 50 years ago, there was no internet, there was no cell phones, there were no recording devices everywhere where people were discovered in their sharing of misinformation. So I say just be authentic, be yourself, don't judge other people. When you catch yourself judging, look in the mirror and just always be filling the gap and serving your customers to the best of your ability, and you will not have to throw stones at others, because you will be the entity and the number one choice in and of yourself, just by being yourself and being who you are, building on your strengths and just ignoring everybody else's, right? Ignoring other people's weaknesses, building on your strengths will always move you to where you want to go, because it'll allow you the opportunity to serve the people that you're here to serve better. So I'd love to know what you think about this. People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones saying. Curious if other people knew that it was from the 1300s. I know that was a surprise for me. I always like it when I get surprised by things like that. And when I learn something new, it's fun to learn something new, right? And it's fun to actually hold up the mirror of reflection and remind myself that in addition to judging other people, I need to cut myself some slack and not judge myself so harshly as well. Which is probably why I have this, I can't stand judging things. So anyway, but I still am doing it all the time. I'm doing it all the time just like everyone else, right? Whenever we're asking a question, we're evaluating. When we're evaluating, we're